Hi, my name is Gabe Cruz. Welcome back to another edition of our series on how to identify the appropriate level for a position or assignment that you'll be applying towards your language testing program. Today we're going to focus on the task analysis. All right, a task analysis is something that you do usually with a third-party company like your testing provider. And if they kind of did their homework, they have a process that was identified by an external team of biopsychologists. Though even if it was an internal team, I think that would be okay with me. But what it does is it identifies a particular protocol to work with your subject matter experts and identify the specific level of proficiency required for whatever you'll be testing for. Usually it's a job, so let's go with that, or a job family. It doesn't necessarily have to be one specific job. It could be 100 different jobs. We've done task analyses for 30 different jobs, and what you do is you don't do 30 different analyses, you break them into job families. So maybe a customer service rep is the same level of fluency required by a technical service rep or a sales assistant or so on. But there are job families, and then you identify however many families that you'll need, and you do one analysis for each family. A task analysis usually takes about a week. Sometimes it can take longer depending on really the subject matter expert response time. And rather than saying subject matter expert, every time I'm going to say SMEs for now on. So just so we're clear, SMEs, subject matter expert. Ideally, you'd have at least 3 SMEs for each job family. Doesn't need to be 3. It could be 2. It could be 1. I shouldn't say ideally it would be 3. Ideally, it would be at least 3. I think about 7 or even 9 is the ideal number, just from a data analysis perspective. And what the analysis is typically going to do is it's going to invite the SMEs to evaluate samples of language and or descriptions of language ability to identify what the minimum level should be for a particular job family. So it could include reading the various descriptors for each level. It could include listening to samples of speech at each level. And it could include writing. Writing would be a separate score, right? So it's kind of part of the same analysis, but rather than, you wouldn't have, it would be 2 separate protocols, not just one protocol for the same, which would produce obviously 1 level recommended. You don't want that, because the level for speaking and the level for writing are very, very possibly 2 different levels. So in addition to reading the criteria for each level, listening to samples at different levels, they will likely be asked to provide responses to a brief questionnaire, like a little survey. And then all of that information from the 9, 7, 3, or even 1 SME would be then tabulated by the company conducting the task analysis, and that would then serve as your kind of backup for the level that you select. The report that the company will produce is really just, honestly, it's basically what your SMEs identified, and they'll summarize it and tell you what the recommended level is for that particular job family, or for each particular job family. The main thing is just keep that. It's kind of like the holy grail of identifying a minimum level of proficiency, because there's really nothing more you can do. A task analysis, which ranges anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per analysis. is basically the most that I am aware of in my 20 years in this industry. As it's the most that a company can do to kind of ensure that they have the appropriate level and they're not kind of turning away candidates that they should be hiring and accepting candidates they shouldn't be hiring. So a task analysis is a great way to kind of go about identifying your minimum level of ability. However, it's costly and it is time consuming. Not in just that it takes a week or two to get your report back, but it's also kind of a business disruptor in the sense that we're going to take maybe one hour, I would say, per subject matter expert to kind of complete all the steps in one given task analysis. So whether you want to do that or not is up to you. There are obviously other things that you can do to identify the appropriate level. But this is certainly, again, the best way to ensure that you have the right level. Next, we'll talk about another level or another process, which is basically just kind of doing this on your own, interviewing your subject matter experts to identify the appropriate level independently of another company. So rather than hiring any language testing company to identify your minimum level, you just do it on your own, and I'll walk you through that process in our next video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.